This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222.
Prof, we have a question from Tom, who's on the call. He asks, how can you actually improve DNA fragmentation?
We go back, DNA fragmentation, let me just explain that a little bit more. So DNA fragmentation relates to what happens in the head of the sperm. So each sperm is like a tadpole. It's got a head and it's got a tail. In the head of the sperm is all the genetic material that's going to end up producing the genetic makeup of the baby. There are 23 chromosomes in that head, and they're all coiled up like snakes inside the head of the sperm. And what we know is that those chromosome lengths can be broken up into little bits and pieces. Now, what are the things that we know increase that? That breaking up little pieces is called fragmentation. That's why it's called DNA fragmentation. And what we know is that if you have high levels of DNA fragmentation, it's more likely that you'll get failed fertilization, failed embryo development, and a higher rate of miscarriage. So obviously, if you have high DNA fragmentation, we need to try and do something about it. The causes of it are thought to be oxidative stress. Now, what causes oxidative stress? Just being emotionally stressed seems to play a part. But more importantly, there are environmental things that contribute to it. Smoking is probably number one that we recognise. Some industries, like where poisons are used for gardening or agricultural crops, there seems to be an increased risk of DNA fragmentation. Having a testicle too warm potentially may also contribute to that. So this is this oxidative stress. So reversing that, although the evidence is not massively good, there are some studies that support it. Using antioxidants is where we go. What's an antioxidant? For me, the good news is it's red wine. That there are antioxidants in red wine. I wouldn't suggest making that as a standard treatment, but there's certainly evidence that it does no harm. But more importantly, it's some of the vitamins. Vitamin C, vitamin E are all antioxidants. So taking those is a good thing. There are products on the market that combine a number of different vitamins and a number of different products. I'll call them products like garlic, which are also known to have antioxidant properties, which are touted at your local chemist and online. I suppose Menavit is the one that's used most, but basically simple vitamin C or vitamin E, which is much cheaper, probably does the job. And then the next phase in that is if you're going through an IVF cycle, there are ways to try and minimise the number of DNA fragmented sperm that might be used. And there are 2 or 3 different techniques. The one that we have, which we've published, is looking at the sperm with something called high magnification. So what we do is we look at your sperm sample, we look at what we think is a good-looking sperm, and then we magnify it 7,000 times. The head of the sperm, instead of being less than a pinhead, or even less than that, now looks like a massive round thing. And within it, what we look for, or what we can see, are little holes, like Swiss cheese. They're called vacuoles. And what our work has shown is that the more vacuoles you have, the more likely it is that you've got severe DNA fragmentation. So what our scientists do is go through your sample and pick the sperm for injection for ICSI as those that have the least number of Swiss cheese holes, vacuoles. And we've got some data to suggest that we get better fertilization rates and less miscarriage rates when we use that technique. So treating it, antioxidants, managing it if it's still there or even if it's not still there, but still making sure that we're using sperm with the least likelihood of DNA fragmentation is now possible.